Hello, everyone, again, and welcome to the Town Hall Theater and the Jackson Gallery and this beautiful exhibit and panel discussion as part of the New Perennials project at Middlebury College. If you're familiar with New Perennials, you would understand why the artists are also part of a larger network of community partners that include educators, farmers, healers, people who work in food systems, sacred practice traditions. And it's a premise of the New Perennials project that a lot of the challenges we face in our own lives and in our culture and on the global scale are because we separate things into pieces and parts. And we can see that in agriculture, the way we turn things into monocultures and grow one food here and one food there. We also do it in our social systems, where one building's a school and one building's a church and one building is an art gallery, and we sort of think of these separations. And it's our premise, or it's a hypothesis that we're exploring, is that if we can heal our agricultural systems and the way we grow food to be more both perennial and diverse, we also need to heal our human communities and think about this diversity and perenniality. So we've been working now for the last 5 years with my colleague Mark Lappin, who's here in the audience, teaching a course at Middlebury College called the Perennial Turn. And a key component of that is we work with our community partners in these 5 areas of practice. So tonight you're going to hear from the other side, the sort of non-art side, but there are artists up here as well, and there are health practitioners and sacred practitioners out here. So we do all this in our own lives, but out in the culture it's pretty separated. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Victoria Andrews, who is our New Perennials intern. She was a student in the Perennial Turn class last year and has been working with us for the last year as an intern. So she's going to tell you what's next, and we're going to have a good time.
Hi everyone, so I'll be moderating tonight, and my name is Victoria, and we're going to start by doing introductions of everybody on the panel, so just a little bit about them and their organization, and then we're going to move into asking them 2 questions, and then after that there will be a Q&A section where you can also ask questions of any of the artists that might be in the audience tonight, as well as the panelists. So we'll kick things off with the Q&A, sorry, not the Q&A, the introductions, and there's a mic down there that you guys can pass. Yeah, that should be on, yeah.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Schlein. I am the founder and the director of the Willowell Foundation, and we are a nonprofit dedicated to the consilience of arts, education, and the environment. And we run a host of different programs, which include place-based education starting in preschool. We run the Wren's Nest preschool program, as well as the New Roots program, which my wife Megan Regali in the audience is the director of, and the Pondbrook program, which next year will be turning into a middle school, which is really exciting. And then the Walden Project, which we are now in our 23rd year out in the woods of Moncton, Vermont. And in addition to sort of the footholds that we have in education, we really try to create opportunities for connection. My personal hero is John Dewey, and he said that education is not preparation for life, education is life. And to that end, we really try to bring community members, artists, farmers into the discourse. And we really take seriously the ecological crisis that we are all facing. And we see young people as on the front line of this and the people that are going to have to come up with the solutions. And the best way to do that is not to see the earth as an abstraction, but as a living, breathing entity. And the more time you spend on the earth, the greater that you're healed. And so that's the sacred mission that drives what we do.
Hi, I'm Donna Bailey, and I'm the director of the Addison County Parent-Child Center. And the Parent-Child Center operates in all of Addison County, but we're housed in Middlebury for our main site, and we have birth to 3 childcare in our building, and then in collaboration with the Hannaford Career Center, we have a preschool program. And we also work with parents, so I'm lucky to work with at least 2 generations at a time, so we're always working with parents with their children. We have focused on teen parents. We're happy to say that teen parenthood is down in numbers, so Addison County has the lowest rate in Vermont, which is great, and we have for a couple of decades now, so that's exciting. And so we're able to work with a variety of ages of parents, and we've also moved into working more with what we call prevention, so non-parenting youth who are transitioning into adulthood. So we have housing programs, we have a program that's in-house that's an alternative high school program, and a job training, and really, well, you don't prepare for life, you're doing it. So to help people really navigate systems and move through the world with some kindness and support.
Hey everybody, I'm Craig Maravich, and I'm the co-founder of Courageous Stage with my partner in crime, fellow co-founder of Courageous Stage, Lindsay Pontius over there. And our work with Courageous Stage works in a various variety of sort of parts of the community. We are a team of theater makers, and we bring theater into classrooms to activate creativity for learners and for educators. Our work exists here in Addison County, but we've also worked in a lot of other pockets of Vermont. We're starting to do some work over the lake as well in New York. We work with teachers and professional development. And, I think one of the big things about what we strive to do in the classroom, and I should say that our work is very much, it's always about how do we integrate in a curriculum that's happening, right? So it's not this idea of arts as an extra, or arts is for only people that want to play, or theater is only for that, but the idea that we infuse theater into this sort of non-traditional space so that students and their teachers can come alive in different ways around what they're studying, so that students can feel this sense of belonging, this sense of ownership of what they're studying. And our work bridges into the community in a variety of ways with some projects that have moved from the school to productions in the community to work with Addison County Fair Days. And New Perennials has been a wonderful partner, and has also helped us kind of push our work to be even more interdisciplinary and connecting with more folks in this community. So it's nice to be here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Krofchek, and I live in New Haven. And I have a few different hats that I wear at different points in the season and just throughout life. With Keyline Vermont, which is a small design, consulting, and education business that I started in 2008. I work with landowners and folks who are just interested in participating with landscape in productive ways, often focused more around sustainability and resilience, kind of homestead skills and things of that sort. And then my wife and I have a small farm in New Haven called Valley Clay Plain Forest Farm, where we really kind of focus on perennial crops through the lens of agroforestry and permaculture design. And so those are kind of the two main enterprises and perspectives I'm bringing to things tonight.
Hi, I'm Bethany Farrell. I'm the founder of the Giving Fridge and Everything Nice here in Middlebury. We serve the community throughout Addison County. So Giving Fridge is a healthy prepared meal program. Our mission is to make healthy food accessible to everyone. Knowing that food really impacts health, which impacts our productive community and ability to work, the mission is to really allow people to have access to healthy food when they need it. So we work with local restaurants to prepare the meals, and we require that at least 50% of ingredients are sourced from local farms. And we give out about 450 meals per week throughout the community. We have a plant shop that's kind of turned into, it started as a little plant sale that was 2 weeks between Christmas and New Year's in December 2020. And it's now grown into a larger plant shop. We do plantscapes for businesses and people all over the area. and that helps fund the meal program. So through plants and grants, we provide the meals. So we've just moved into 51 Main from the old diner and collaborated with Crooked Ladle Catering. So we have a retail space combined with a restaurant, and it serves the community. So.
Thank you, everyone. And moving on to the questions that we have prepared for our panelists tonight. The first question we have is, how do you engage in your work with communities, both human and non-human communities? So if anyone wants to start, I can pass you the mic.
So not to be redundant, but we serve the Addison County community by providing them with healthy food. I think something that became very apparent during the pandemic that many of us knew prior was that local food systems are extremely important and something that's lacking, particularly when it comes to feeding those who may not be able to afford food when they please, or when they need. So part of our mission has been to really create an ecosystem between commerce, community, and agriculture. The Everyone Eats program has been an important part of us being able to expand and grow within the community. It was a federally funded pandemic relief program, and that's just come to an end. But it did allow us to provide 50% more meals to the community than we would have been able to. And so with that ending now, it's become even more important to grow the ecosystem here. So we have people coming in to buy plants, make their environment a little bit nicer while making someone else's day a little bit nicer by buying a meal for them and their family. So it's been a nice way to not only serve the community, but create, again, an ecosystem where we have a give what you can model. Some people can't give anything, and that's totally fine, but many people will come and bring a plant cutting that I can then sell, or they'll bring a plant that's been in their family for decades that they can no longer take care of, or it's getting a little bit too big for the house, and then making the connection between the restaurants and the farmers. It's a lot easier for restaurants to have a distributor and place one order and get everything they need in one truckload. During the pandemic, we all saw where the supply chain issues lied and how big of an issue it really was. So we were trucking in things from other countries, other states, when we have really most of what we need here in Vermont. So even though it's been a little bit more legwork for me and for the restaurants, I've seen the fruits of that labor coming together in those restaurants now having better relationships with the farms, or restaurants going in on one order, so that it makes more sense for the farms to deliver to this area. So it's been a really interesting and impactful way to be able to connect all of these different parts of the community where we're all interacting together, but people often think that food insecurity is, totally out of our, we don't see it. People come and ask, how is there so much need? Where are these people? But they really are our neighbors. I think it's important to remember that each of us is just one financial or health setback away from needing food support. And, there are the very small percentage of people who have been in the system and work the system, but that, with 450 meals a week for 3 years now, I've seen that is that's the exception. That's not the majority. Most people want to be able to contribute. They want to be able to support themselves. But until you find yourselves in that situation, it's hard to understand how that can happen. And when you get into a health crisis where you're finding yourself needing financial and food support, it's so important to have access to healthy food. If you're getting processed food, if you're getting expired food, that's just going to perpetuate the cycle. And kind of getting people from different backgrounds to understand that's the situation, rather than people who don't want to work, or people who, just don't want to work as hard. These are our neighbors, and if we all support each other through these various ecosystems, I think we'll see a much more productive society.
So my work with the community takes a few different expressions. Obviously, as food growers, we're just doing what we can to feed folks with things that we produce in a caring way. And we vend through the Burlington Farmers Market and a few local restaurants, along with a few stores. As a designer, I have built relationships with clients who are just looking for some insight and guidance and coaching and a vision, just as to help them chart their path in terms of thinking about a long-term relationship with place. And that's kind of some of the most rewarding work that I do, coupled with education, where I'm basically trying to help give people the tools that they need to understand landscapes and then think about strategic and positive responses to challenges that they're facing already, ways they can become more resilient and engaged with place. And so I think at the end of the day, the real goal is just to kind of help people see their lives as part of the ecosystems they're a part of, to recognize that humans are, one species among many in the ecosystems. We have a role to play, and there's a lot of healing work that's much needed. And so just to kind of look for those opportunities, be a good listener in terms of like interacting with place as well, and just being careful to observe before action, and then ultimately just act with intention and humility. And so, yeah.
Well, just reflecting on what you both are saying, and want to just ask some more questions or listen to you all talk about your work. It's making me think about, how I enter the community and the work of Courageous Stage, and you both sort of touched on it in different ways, but I think with everything we try to do in a classroom or working with teachers, or sort of a bridge between the classroom and the community as we engage people in the theater making process, there's like creative capacities and skills that people learn, and those skills that like speak to like how do we better listen to one another, how do we better like reach across difference or engage across difference, how do we like imagine a future that like maybe doesn't exist right now, but how do we do that as an individual, and how do we do that collectively? And all that's great, and I could like keep going on that track, because I think, but I don't know, at the end of the day, I feel like our work creates an opportunity, as I think all theater or collaborative arts can, for people to simply connect with one another. Like just that opportunity to connect across whatever, there's always a difference, right, between any two people. Like, so just that opportunity to connect, to see that in classrooms, to see that in community, has been a really sort of moving part of this work for me. I mean, now I'm thinking, we've moved into some programming that has been, as I just think about like the non-human world, some of our work has, for example, like we have a program that uses Shakespeare, the play Romeo and Juliet in particular, as a way for students to like engage with that play, perform that play, but also doing that alongside a unit on interdependence. And that play is really interesting in that, the first half of that play is a comedy. It could be in many ways. Like the second half, it's a disaster. It's a tragedy, and pretty much it's a pretty high body count. Most people die. And at some point in that play, all of the characters start saying one form or another, I needs must act alone. And you see the community just kind of crumble, right? And then the play ends with this possible invitation to imagine like what could Verona be in the future. So, we developed this program that exists on a digital platform, but then also happens in person in schools for students to be thinking about, yes, engaging with this work of art, learning how to perform Shakespeare and all of those challenges and the way that can connect people, while also thinking about what is that telling us as we think about ourselves as just one part of this planet of so many other species. So that's been that's a place where we're going kind of specifically in our work as it connects to humans, non-humans, the big broad world. So.
Okay. What was the question? No.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's okay. I'll riff. Thank you all. I feel like the Parent Child Center, the work we do, and there's about 30 of us who work there, incredibly gifted people, I think, who, we I think try to provide opportunities for both little ones and bigger ones to be able to experience the world in different ways. So, I think it's a privilege and a gift to be able to reflect on life and think about art and think about spirituality and think about nature and think about lots of things. And when you are living in poverty or when you're a single parent with a small child, you don't get to as much because I think survival is a mode. So to be able to be in a community so you're not alone, so the connections are what's critically important, I think, with each other, but also with the world around us. So I'm just going to give some examples because I can't talk about all that we do because, meeting people where they are and figuring that out when you have to listen and then respond to that. So it changes sometimes, and what we do might be different today than next year. But the core for me is really about allowing or being a part of somebody's growth and whatever that is. And so for us, we have therapeutic care. So we have education, and we have now a nature-based therapeutic childcare, which is really powerful. So to see, COVID actually, that was a gift of COVID, I think, really. Go outside. It didn't matter if it was, really cold or it was really this or that. And with young children, to really experience the world of nature is important. And when you have, some kids who are crying when they touch the grass or too cold or things like that, like, we're disconnected. So to think about how we can connect is really important. So right now, a couple of projects we're working on, because I think food, of course, is critically important. It's a basic human need. And so where it comes from, where we source it, all of those things, again, if we have the privilege to think about it, then we have to share that knowledge. So we have a garden project, we have a greenhouse, we have a section that's for toddlers, and we have a section that's for adults, right? Because mixing those is not a good idea in a greenhouse, by the way. And we have gardens outside. So, and then we have the gift of the giving fridge. We have hope. We have other, lots of farms, and we glean. We have some CSA grants, things like that. So we are also trying to provide local, healthy food for people. We have composting. We have, so the cycle of life and how we are part of the earth is, something hopefully little children aren't far from yet, and hopefully their parents can connect with. So, and all of us, I think that it brings us together as part of the planet. So right now we're doing a project with Rainbow Pediatrics. The nurses are working with us on our garden. So it's sort of the new Perennial thing, isn't it? So it's, we are able to connect people who really want to give and want to help, and for people to be able to learn. So hopefully in the future, and some of our folks already do have gardens, but many of them live in housing projects where they can't necessarily. So we're able to do that, and we provide 2 meals a day for all the families at our center, and then we're able to also give some to the families in the community. So yeah.
Thanks. I'm reminded of the quote by Rabbi Israel Baal Shem Tov. He says, "The world is full of wonders and miracles, but we close our eyes and we claim we see nothing." And I feel like that really sort of characterizes the experience in the world. And I feel like our work is inspired by reminding people to open up their eyes and to sort of see that vibrant connection that's out there. And I think when you're in nature, you're reminded time and again of the sort of interconnectedness, of the vibrancy that's there. The work of the Walden Project, it comes out of the work at Virgins Union High School, where there are amazing teachers. I mean, and I really do feel like the public schools in Vermont are filled with so many inspiring people. And yet I see that the way that the design of the schools, the design of the buildings, in fluorescent lit concrete buildings, and bells go off and you got to get up and you got to move, and you go from talking about Shakespeare, now we're going to talk about quadratic equations, now we're going to talk about this, that, and it really creates this incredible sense of disconnection. And I think in spite of the really heroic efforts of the teachers there, huge numbers of young people feel alienated from their education. And so what we've done is really what people did before modern civilization started. We gather around a fire and we let Mother Nature really be the master teacher, and Mother Nature brings the inspiration and the opportunity, and it's our job to help frame the experience, but it's really being open. Thoreau uses this term. He ran a school for a brief while with his brother John, and he talked about, he used to take the kids on what he would call huckleberrying, and they would just walk around and they would see what inspiration was there, during the course of the day, and that was really what led the discourse. That was really where the inspiration was. And so, in our own way, we try to do that. And I'm thinking of a couple of examples of just sort of the magic and wonder. The one time we did a camping trip in Cooley Glen up in Lincoln, Vermont, and at the camping spot where we were, it was in late spring, and we came upon a moose carcass that had a tree had fallen on the moose, and the back end of it had been picked clean by coyotes, but the front end of the torso had been frozen in the icy New Haven River. And when we came to that camping spot, we decided that it was time to have a funeral for the moose. And so, like, everyone together, we lifted up the tree, and then we dragged the moose carcass, which was so ripe with all kinds of fecund life, and we buried it. And I just remember there was just this incredible awe that happened. And there was this one student who my friend Lily Shorey back there had introduced me. And this kid had been so deeply alienated, had spent basically his entire time involved in the juvenile justice system. And we were told, don't take this kid in your program. He's going to cause all kinds of trouble. And I remember him just becoming very, very serious, and him just saying, the moose is returning back to the earth just like we all will. And I think that the great failing that we're dealing is this disconnect between the human systems and the natural systems. And so I hope that the work that we do at Willowwell, fosters this sense of interconnection, not between the human systems and the natural systems. So, yeah, thank you.
So I want to think about kids and art for a minute. For me, watching children do art or be art or experience art is such a critical part of their learning and understanding. And children, I think, understand the world and themselves and where they fit in it because of art. Period. And so for me, there's so many languages that kids speak, and the humanity is art, right? So, I mean, it's what connects us as humans. And so once we can deal with, basic needs, then, I mean, what makes us human and a community is art, really. So, there, I'm done.
Yeah, here. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I've only been talking about art because that's my work and how I sort of enter and see the world. But yeah, I am behind y'all and next to you. And I mean, yeah, it's when I think about, if you think about the pieces of art, right, like as an invitation to us all, if you think about the pieces of art that you keep returning to or that nurture you, those songs, those paintings, that performance that you saw that you never forget, like think about like what questions are those pieces of art asking of you, and what is it answering? And like when you go down, there's a whole sort of interesting progression to like go down through pieces of art and do that. And at the end of the day, you're always going to come up with those those questions that we ask of like, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be on this planet? What does it mean to be a part of this earth? Like, art helps us answer and grapple with those things that we have no other language for. At least that's what I think.
I'm always interested in hearing people's stories. And so my question, and then I'll give you an example of my little story, is because I think some of us are not from here originally, was there a moment or an experience you had, and this would be for the artists as well as the panel, was there a moment or experience you had where you said, I think I want to be in this place? My experience was I was 14 years old. I was on a ski trip with my parents to Vermont. It rained. I really wanted to ski. They said, we're going home. My parents said, you know, it's about time for Greg to start thinking about colleges. So we drove over Middlebury Gap and we came up to the college, and I looked, and there were students coming out of one of the dorms with their skis in the rain, getting on a bus to go ski at the Snow Bowl. And I said, that's where I want to go to college. So I'm wondering if any of you could think of an experience that connected you to this place where you said, this is where I want to be. I see some.
This is going to be really dorky. So I was 15, and my boyfriend was from Shelburne, Vermont. I was from Troy, New York. And I was a skier, which is why we knew each other. I came to visit his family, and I looked out over Lake Champlain and the Adirondacks, and I went, this fits.
Oh, mine's dorky, too. The date is November. Wait, when's Halloween? It's the. Okay. November 1st. It is snowing. It's 1991. There's 6 inches of gooky snow on the ground in Middlebury, Vermont, and we have just arrived with a moving van. I am holding a 4-month-old baby in one hand and a 3.5-year-old in the other, and it's dark. It's not very nice, and I don't know anybody, but John has taken a job here. And we couldn't find a place to rent, but it was the last it was a furnished thing. And so there we are. Within 2 hours, somebody from across the way, a little old lady, has arrived with a hot casserole. And I'm inside sort of tearing my hair out, and the baby wants a nurse. And, you know, it's busy, it's hectic, it's still snowing. 3-year-old's crying, and there's a knock on the door, and there's a young woman with a baby in a backpack, and she's holding hands with a 2-year-old, and she says, do you guys want to come play tomorrow? And the next day, someone else arrived. These are all strangers with a plate of cookies. So I said to John that night, I don't care what happens with your job. I haven't even walked around this town yet. But we are not leaving this community. Okay. So that was part one, and we have not left, and he's had many job changes. But then 4 months later, I had managed to find another mother that would take care of my baby 9 hours a week, and I'd found a studio in the Battelle block, so I could start painting again 9 hours a week. And I met someone who said, you know, there's a group that's starting to get together, women artists, just to connect once a month, talk about what we're working on, just to connect. And Janet Fredericks was there, who's in the show. She's not here tonight because she's in the Ukraine with her. Yeah, or she's sick, all right. But and it went on from there. It just never stopped. Number 3. So I've been here 31 years, and I've been taking a class for the past 6 months, the Vermont Master Naturalist group, which again is about, in a way, many communities. And the reason most people take it, and your colleague is taking it, it's great, Eric, is to find out more about the place in which we live. And we go way, way back in time, and we layer it like a cake. And we have many different people who are looking at this landscape and the people and the agriculture and the who we are in many ways, all the experts. And then each person who is there for a personal reason, but also wanting to share and connect and expand their knowledge base. And it's just an amazing place.
Maybe if also, yeah, one more person to share. Great, thank you.
Keep it, I don't know how long I'll keep it, but it's really great to hear these stories, and it's wonderful to be part of this. I was thinking about this, and I know there's been places where I felt like I didn't want to be. And I think that's, to flip the question on its head just briefly, important because, it can help answer that question of where I want to be. When we first moved to the Midwest for my job, there's no trees out there, flat, no trees, no hills. And being a New Englander, that really freaked me out. I felt like I was like on the edge, sliding off, and that there was no center to anything because I'd been used to town centers and hills and things like that. And I can't lie because my wife was here. I gave it a chance, begrudgingly, and came around to actually love it there. But when I think about this is where I want to be, I think about our history together. We rented so many apartments in New York, and we painted them and we revamped them. So we put ourselves into the space and we beautified it, and then we wanted to be there. And the other thing that we did is we connected. I'll speak for myself. I connected. I got to know everyone on my block and talked to them, and they talked to me. And so part of that is, I guess, because we've moved around a lot. Just working on what we've talked about here is being connected to people by paying attention and being conscious, and if you withhold that connection, like I did when I moved to Kansas, it just is miserable. No place to be. So I appreciate the question.
So Bill talked about our spheres, as we call them in New Perennials, and a sphere that's not explicitly represented here is the sacred practices. And so everything we've spoken about has aspects of sacredness. And in one way, so I think a lot about the separation of church and state, actually, and how some ways of a person who has a conscience, some ways of talking about sacredness can't be spoken about in public schools, for instance, and that sort of thing. So it's not a question so much, but I'm curious to hear anyone's reflections on sacredness and how the speaking about languaging, felt experience of sacredness and interconnection maybe is spoken about in your work and in your art.
I don't know if you heard or have read any of Dacher Keltner's work on awe, but he had recently an interview with Krista Tippett on being.
Yes, it was great.
It was amazing. If you can get over that she sounds like she's in middle school and she's got a crush on him, which is like, but she's in awe of him. But I bring it up in this context because I've always chafed a little bit at and got to change that as faith sphere, even a spiritual sphere. It really is awe, because awe is a through line, whether it's in the sublime in nature, whether it's in a religious experience, whether it's even what he calls moral beauty, just where they're big awes and little awes, whether it's psychedelics, when the ego dissolves. The through line, neurologically, as a neuroscientist, as well as in experience, is awe, and it cuts across all of these things. And so, and as I was saying, the chafing part about the definitions of our spheres was because I knew I wanted to be talking about interiority. I knew I had an overlap with those people who are in that faith group, even though I do not have a faith in any sort of traditional way. And yeah, good work. It's great work. And if she bugs you in the interview, he also does a really great one with Michael Pollan.
So, my wife is here. She's a producer-director, and there was a film earlier this week called Yamanjá, Wisdom from the African Heart of Brazil, narrated by Alice Walker. If you had a chance to watch that, then the 3 photos at the end of the exhibit maybe have a little bit more of a connection for you in understanding what they are, but to experience being in a place and being completely out of what would be considered my normal space, to be in a Tejedo, to be with a woman who's 109 years old, and to see and hear and smell and feel all of those experiences happening around you.
Honey, tell them what a Tejero is.
Tejero is a meeting place, is a place of healing, is a place of faith and religion. It's where ritual happens and celebration. Right. You know it much better than I do. So anyway, it's a really great experience to bring that and to take a moment to be able to capture that and share it with other people, and that's part of what that is about at the end. She's 109. She represents the
When he says she, he's not talking about his wife.
We saw the photo.
She's 109. Okay. She represents Yamanjá, the goddess of the sea, and it was great to be with.
On the wall.
On the wall, yes, honey. Yeah, okay. so, and to be in with that group of people in that culture that sees in nature the goddess and the god, not just that's a river or a creek, that's Oshun, or that's Yamanjá, or that's Osain. So you begin to have a different relationship with it. So that was very impactful for me.
I think just the act of making community is sacred. I think of the first day of school when I gather with the students for the first time, and they're all sizing each other up, and they come from heterogeneous backgrounds, and they're, I got to spend a year in the woods with you. And then watching them at the end of the year hug and embrace each other, and this person that they've othered, they now see as an extension of themselves. So I just think the simple act of making community is pretty profound and sacred. Yeah.
When people say to me, well, what exactly is New Perennials? I wish they were here tonight, because I would say this, and all of these wonderful people and all the work they're doing. So thanks for coming out, and please feel free to talk a little bit more among yourselves. I guess, I don't know what time we have to be out of this building. John, did you want to say?
I just want to say this panel and this conversation, these artists are awe-inspiring.